Hello and welcome to Global Eye. I'm Parikshit Luthra. The top story we are tracking this evening. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be travelling to France at the invitation of French President Macron from the 10th to the 12th of February. He will be attending and co-chairing the Artificial Intelligence Summit along with meeting the French President for bilateral talks. The Prime Minister will also head to the United States on an official visit from the 12th to the 13th of February. PM Modi will hold bilateral talks with President Trump and meet senior officials from the US administration. Modi is also expected to interact with key American business leaders and the Indian diaspora during his visit. Sources have indicated that the two leaders will have a discussion on a trade agreement with an agenda to lay out a roadmap to sign a deal in 7 to 8 months. This visit comes at a time when the US administration deported 104 illegal Indian nationals this week as part of Trump administration's crackdown on illegal immigration. Joining us now to take the discussion forward and put the Prime Minister's visit to the White House in perspective for our viewers is Atul Keshap, present at the US-India Business Council. Mr. Keshap, thank you so much for joining us on the program. Let me begin by asking you, on trade, what do you expect? Will they set out a roadmap on a trade agreement?
Well, I very much hope so. Hi, Parikshit. Thanks for having me on. Look, we've been kind of stalled out for the past few years between the U.S. and India on trade facilitation and innovation. And these are two big, bold, ambitious leaders. So I hope that they will be ambitious for the trajectory of our two countries. And I absolutely hope they'll come up with something robust.
Right. Now, after the new administration was sworn in, what has been the recommendation from the U.S. Chambers of Commerce, from the USIBC, to the U.S. government, to the Trump administration on what to do with the trade agreement with India, and also how to reduce the trade deficit?
Well, let's take a step back, Parikshit, and just think about the moment. You know, President Trump just got sworn in. He had Minister Jaishankar here for that inauguration. They had a Quad meeting immediately thereafter with the 4 foreign ministers of the Quad. And now we are hurtling right into a visit by Prime Minister Modi. And this is indicative not only of the very warm and special relationship between President Trump and Prime Minister Modi dating back to the first Trump administration, but it's also indicative of the importance of India and, more importantly, of India-U.S. ties in helping propel economic growth, prosperity, and stability on this planet. If you think about all of the other, sort of quasi-great powers, they all have problems, but India and the U.S., while we also have problems, are much stronger. We are more robust. Our societies are more resilient. We are bursting with innovation because of our free people and the talent of our people. And our economic growth is strong, and it can become even stronger. If you look at what's been happening in the early days of this administration, they're looking at ways to transform and unleash the animal spirits of the American people and the American economy to boost our growth even more. And I think that's true about India as well. So USIBC has always been in favor of this. This is our 50th anniversary Golden Jubilee in 2025. For 50 years, we have advocated for the strongest possible strategic, economic, and technological collaboration between the people of the United States and the people of India. We put out a report 2 weeks ago that basically outlines 9 different areas where we ought to intensify our relationship: defense, fintech, digital economy, artificial intelligence, quantum computing, pharmaceuticals, you name it. The sky's the limit if we really focus. And I do think there's an air of ambition right now in what the two leaders want to try to achieve. That means that we can probably get a lot of good stuff done.
Right. Could you give us a sense of the kind of U.S. CEOs, or which sectors would those CEOs be from, who will actually call on Prime Minister Modi? We believe that the National Security Council, the White House, is handling this visit very tightly, and there will be a business meeting with the PM, but we don't know who all will be there as yet.
Well, here's what I can tell you, and of course the two governments have to decide how they're going to structure the visit. But we at USIBC have dozens of top CEOs who are ready to engage with both the Prime Minister and the President. These are CEOs from the very top companies in e-commerce, financial services, banking, defense, new economy, digital economy, the life sciences. I mean, the list goes on and on. We've compiled a list of 30 CEOs who are ready to change their plans and fly in order to be part of this. And that list is growing, I might add, every minute.
Right, 30 CEOs. What about energy ties? Do you expect the president to urge Prime Minister Modi to buy more crude, buy more LNG from the US? And do you expect any sort of agreement on that front?
Well, I can't speak for President Trump, but I 100% would love to see India buy more LNG, more crude, innovate with us on nuclear, especially modular nuclear. I think there's an energy revolution that the U.S. and India can drive. We've already got a pretty strong critical minerals working group. There's a lot else we can do. I'm very bullish on modular nuclear, but this is where governments have to make decisions. America has a proven track record of being a reliable partner and supplier for oil and gas. It will greatly help balance the structural trade deficit between Washington and Delhi if India buys more oil and gas. I think President Trump has also been very clear in his statements that he wants India to buy more defense articles. We, of course, fully support that. We support full defense collaboration to ensure the deterrence capability of India and the United States. I'd like to see more agricultural sales as well, soybeans and corn and whatnot. So there's quite a bit of ambition on the American side for what could come out of it. And I think there's also a desire to see India take steps to reduce tariffs further and reduce non-tariff barriers further and to speed up business, including cutting down on red tape. We did a little internal survey of our companies, and while they're very bullish on India, they're investing like crazy in India. They're expanding in India, just like Indian companies who are also members are expanding heavily in America, paying taxes here, employing people here. There is a great desire to see India reduce its tariffs, its rather considerable non-tariff barriers, and bureaucratic red tape that slows down a lot of decision-making. If that happens, I think India's GDP will grow, FDI will grow, and it'll be good for the Indian people.
Top 3 sectors where we need to reduce tariffs, according to the Trump administration and the U.S. chambers?
Well, I think agricultural goods, certain consumer products as well. There's a whole list. I mean, India, not to put words in my mouth, but to say what former USTR Representative Bob Lighthizer said, India is the most protectionist large economy on earth. And that may be for solid reasons. I mean, you have to see what the Indian government does for its people. But I think it actually would serve to advance India, make it more dynamic, more globally competitive, enhance FDI flows and job creation, tax generation, if India were to drop these barriers and be a bit more confident about itself. And that's definitely I think, something that President Trump and his team will be looking at.
Right. Elon Musk in the room, how does he impact Donald Trump's policies vis-a-vis India?
So, look, there's a lot that's said about him. Here's what I'll say. Elon Musk represents a new technology ambition of the United States. Think about NASA compared to SpaceX and the capabilities of SpaceX now. I worked in the government for 28 years. Government doesn't have the monopoly on smarts and capability. And it's innovators like Musk, an immigrant who brought his native genius to our shores and has revolutionized the way we get the internet through satellites, the way we get into space, the way we drive cars and get around town, and so much else besides. I mean, I'm on Twitter, you're on Twitter. That is where the ideas of this world flow. So whether you like him or hate him, the fact is that he has completely reminded Americans that we can tap into our own genius to advance ourselves and that we shouldn't be content with 2 and 3% growth rates and a very sort of sclerotic, advanced industrial state. That in fact, we can also be like India, growing very rapidly, that we can intensify the pace of change in our country for the betterment of our people, and that we can use technology. So I think this is a moment full of possibility in the United States. It is a wedding of government purpose and free citizens technologies. And I would like to see the Trump-Modi summit harness that and unleash the animal spirits of India and the United States in ways that are good for our countries, our people, and for the entire world.
Right. My last question. Right now there's a lot of discomfort in the Indian political side, especially with the manner in which the deported Indian nationals on that military plane were treated. They were all in restraints. Now, one understands that this is US protocol. This is how they deal with people who have broken laws in the US. Having said that, is there any scope for negotiation and how they are treated? Because India has expressed concerns about them being restrained, and this is likely to figure in conversations between the two sides next week as well.
Yes, it certainly could come up. I mean, look, Parikshit, I think that the two leaders are going to talk about the Indo-Pacific, where India and Washington have an enormous amount of strategic convergence. They're going to talk about the Middle East, where India and the United States are essentially helping our allies in the region to shore up stability and positive transformation in that part of the world. We have a giant agenda to talk about in terms of the Indian Ocean, Africa, the Pacific Islands, where even in Latin America, where India and the U.S. have a global partnership on shared concerns. And so that'll be a big part of the conversation. The trade and economic will also be a giant part of the conversation, where I hope that we will see an enormous input of energy and ambition by both leaders in order to take us to the next level on trade. And then on this issue, I would say it's complex. There are many facets to it. You know, we haven't talked about skilled visas and things like skilled worker visas, but this issue certainly could come up. And this is where the governments need to have a friendly, frank, constructive conversation between two friends who trust each other.
All right. Thank you very much, Ambassador Keshap, for joining us on the program. We are going to take a short break here on Global Eye, but coming up, US President Trump plans to take over Gaza. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu gives his proposal a thumbs up, while Middle East countries and key US allies condemn the move. A special discussion with former Indian ambassador and Middle East expert Talmiz Ahmad when we return. Welcome back. You're watching Global Eye. President Donald Trump has made a proposal for the United States to take over the Gaza Strip. This comes after Trump hosted Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in the White House. Now, this has led to concerns in the White House administration. Some officials have tried to walk back on this proposal. U.S. allies, Middle East countries have condemned it as well. So, what direction could this take? Currently, the Israel government is welcoming this. We're now joined by former Indian ambassador to Saudi Arabia, Talmiz Ahmad. Ambassador Ahmad, thank you very much. You have been tracking this region very, very closely. Let me begin by asking you, Donald Trump today is saying that US will take over Gaza. It's not so simple. What will be the reaction, and can he really execute what he's saying?
We are watching Donald Trump in action in his second term. We had all been very curious about what he would do. We were apprehensive, expectant, and some of us even falsely believed that he could be different. What I am concerned about is that he is today extremely unpredictable, extremely impulsive, a complete megalomaniac, and I think he has not thought through the implications of any of the posturing that he has done today. There is no policy behind his remarks. His remarks so far with regard to Gaza have created confusion, have created shock, and have created outrage. There is no contribution that he has made that could be considered remotely positive or constructive. This is a region that has experienced extraordinary carnage of the kind that is without precedent except in the world wars. We have had within 15 months 60,000 people killed in front of our eyes, and numerous, most of them women and children. And yet the US president has the temerity to say that he is going to construct a Riviera in Gaza, and that the entire population will be cleansed out, and that he will then occupy it on behalf of the American people. This is an absolutely obnoxious remark, and it is something that should be condemned very strongly.
Right. What do you think this will do to the ceasefire, the truce that we're seeing right now? What about countries like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE? How are they going to react to this in the days to come if Trump tries to execute this plan with the support of the Israeli government?
You see, we are all very confused, and I'm sure the capitals in the region are trying to make sense of what has happened. Donald Trump's officials have attempted to play down the implications of what he has said. Some of them have said that these are just ideas which have been floated. They are meant to encourage fresh thinking with regard to the peace process. They should not be taken literally. And all of that, they are attempting to cover up some of the implications of what has been said. With regard to the ceasefire, the principal concern is the second phase. The second phase involves the release of the balance of the hostages, and it involves total Israeli withdrawal from Gaza. That is the key. Now, you know, right from the beginning, Netanyahu has shown very deep reluctance about phase two. He has been preparing the ground for a renewal of conflict. He knows that phase two has two problems for him. Number one, that Hamas is still in charge of Gaza. And this is the prime minister who had said at the beginning of the Gaza carnage that he would cleanse the region of Hamas. Obviously, that has not happened. Blinken himself, before leaving, had said that Hamas has now fully recovered its manpower and in spite of many people having been killed. The second concern, which is more serious for Netanyahu, and that pertains to the future of his government. The right-wing elements within his coalition have said they will not accept a withdrawal from Gaza. On the contrary, their own plan is to cleanse Gaza of Palestinians and to plant Jewish settlers back into that enclave. So there is a serious problem that Netanyahu faces with regard to the second phase, because he is committed under that agreement to withdraw from Gaza, but that could lead to the fall of his government and the legal implications that will follow for him personally, as far as the criminal cases against him are concerned and inquiries about his conduct that had led to the attack on 7th October 2023. So there are serious implications, and we have to be concerned very, very much about what is likely to happen now with regard to the situation in Gaza and the ceasefire agreement.
Right. And in a way, he's playing exactly into what Netanyahu wanted. They wanted Hamas to be completely wiped away, the administration of Gaza to be handed over to an entity which has nothing to do with the Hamas. So they would definitely welcome the US proposal. But can the Israeli government, currently the Israeli defense minister is making a plan to get the Palestinians to leave Gaza, go somewhere else, and maybe return in future? How will they actually execute something like this? Will this lead to a bigger war in the Middle East?
You see, this is again an aspect of serious uncertainty. I'm not sure what the Israelis actually want. Netanyahu was smirking next to the president and was looking pleased and joyful because he had attained a small part of his agenda, and that is the cleansing of Gaza. He knows, and everyone knows in the region, this is not going to happen. It is completely non-feasible. But it is something that his entire effort during this visit was to be the man to capture the president's attention and to get the president on board in terms of supporting Israel's maximalist agenda. He wanted to reaffirm the relationship he had with the president when he had covered during the first term. To that extent, Netanyahu is feeling rather pleased with himself. These stray remarks that the president has made, I am not sure they constitute serious policy. I'm not even sure they are a negotiating position. My personal view is that this is a typical posturing of the president for its own shock value. And if I may quote, it is a sound and fury signifying nothing. We still have the serious matters relating to Gaza in front of us. Those cannot be ignored just because the president has created a certain verbal churn, a rhetorical churn. I don't think the serious issues can be ignored by anybody, including by Netanyahu. This is a kind of a comedy within a tragedy. And I think that we will have to ultimately address the serious issue. I also don't believe, as of now, but anything is possible, I also do not believe Donald Trump actually wants war in the region. He has been a deal maker. He makes loose remarks. He doesn't very often follow up with them. He doesn't have a plan to follow up. He doesn't have a strategy, doesn't have resources put together. These are stray remarks that are made, and then everyone moves on. Now we are divided. We don't know what is the implications of this. He has made the remarks twice, so he came back the next day and he enjoyed the shock value. He wants to be on the world stage. He wants to strut on the world stage and tell everybody what a great guy I am. But I'm not sure there is too much substance behind that.
All right. Sir, I'm running out of time, but thank you so much for joining us, giving us a full perspective of what's happening between US and Israel right now, difficulties and dangers of what could happen if such a plan is executed. So that was Ambassador Talmiz Ahmad speaking to CNBC-TV18, giving us a sense of what's happening in Gaza right now. We've completely run out of time, but thank you so much for joining us on Global Eye. Goodbye.